Hi, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations, a part of the Plein Air Easton 2021 festival. My name is Tim Wigan. We're going to be doing this for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Coffee and Conversations is something we brought back from last year. The one thing that I will try to do with this conversation is, at any point, if there's a term that someone uses or a phrase I don't understand, I will try to make sure, to the best of my ability, that we're not jumping ahead or talking too in the slang of a particular topic. This one happens to be inspiration. Today, we're talking about inspiration, a look inside, the voice inside your head. But I will try to make sure that any time the conversation gets maybe technical, that everybody understands exactly where we are so we can move forward as a group. Ideally, we'll get these three artists started, and then we will open it up so it can become a dialogue between the audience and the talent. And I will also repeat any questions that the audience may have so the viewer will get it. That's my promise. Again, welcome to Coffee and Conversations. I want to welcome the three guests, Cecily Storm, Rob Shelley, and Anthony Cannon. And I'm going to start out a little bit backwards and then get them to introduce themselves and who they are. As I was studying this topic, inspiration, I was talking to a lot of people. Anybody who would talk to me about it, really. And so we were having a casual conversation, and someone came up with an idea last night for a movie or a script or a television show, and they were like, I think it would be a good idea to have someone have a sperm donor who was making money, donating sperm, and then all of the people that came back in his life somehow. And I was like, yeah, it'd be a great Christmas show, that sort of thing. And we were talking about it. We were like, hey, let's. Is that where inspiration starts?
With sperm?
Yeah, I was going to say, with
Yes.
how to make
There's more starts
I guess
than
you
just
could say
inspiration
that.
there, yes. You understand the question?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. I think so. Like people having a dialogue or like a
but that's
kernel.
not, but when's it an idea,
when you have the art bug, I guess is what you're asking? Or when you have the flash of creativity goes off?
I knew it was an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was an idea. I'm not sure it was inspiration. What turns it into inspiration?
I think the inspiration in this specific instance would be the person you were having the conversation with, meeting a person who this actually happened to. So he was in a bar and he overheard someone saying, yeah, I've been donating sperm for years. And all of a sudden, all these kids are like contacting me. And then he overheard that, took it and turned it into a screenplay.
Great.
So the inspiration is the
story
real,
itself.
the real thing, I think.
Good. I just thought I was going to start the conversation that way. I was like, I don't know if this is an idea. So my next question is, and this is a favorite from The Office that I copy all the time now, that I use. It was when Michael Scott was doing his exit interview with Toby, and he looked over and he says, who do you think you are? Anthony, I'll put that to you. Who do you think you are?
Musically, someone that inspires people when they hear my music, because everything comes from my heart. And all of my music is all derived from experiences, people I've come in contact with, artists of the past that have left incredible music behind that are no longer with us. And just that walking down the street and I'm from St. Michael's, Maryland, born and raised, and just going down to the waterfront and just looking out and just imagining all those that came before me that are no longer here.
Right.
So with me, it's all about the legacy. So that's where I'm at. It's about my music being here after I'm gone.
Gotcha. And you can just talk to me, just because your mic will pick up on that side. So we'll just keep the conversation in here, and then the audience will join in. Rob, who do you think you are?
Who are I? I agree with him, is that I think when you become, or you decide to take this as a career, you want to get to the point where you are with your inspiration, and sometimes you get to make friends with those folks, but also in the end, you hope that a younger generation or somebody comes and sees your work and goes, how did you do that? So I'm the son of a teacher, an art teacher. So to me, like, my job is also to be creative, but also if somebody says, hey, can you help me? I can go, this is how I did this, and sort of keep that moving forward. So my legacy, whether is it the finished painting, but also if there's people behind me that say, hey, this guy, I met this guy at the show, or I saw his poster, and he showed me how to do this, so that they continue to move forward long after I'm gone.
Okay.
So,
Okay, and just so the audience knows, they're working on the volume. We know the volume's a little low in the house. The volume will come up as we get going through this, hopefully. So, Cece, who are you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm an artist, which it took me a long time to like have the courage to say that.
It's a big step, right?
It is, because I've dabbled in many actually my whole life has been like one long artistic journey. And I've taken on many different labels, but it wasn't until probably a couple years ago I like really realized that I was an artist.
That's what I was trying to get at. Anthony, do you want to read, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living?
A day job, I am a cybersecurity expert as a contractor for different departments in the federal government.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But then you're actually, the reason you're here is because?
I'm assigned to endorse smooth jazz saxophonist. And
That's why you're here.
I'm here because of the Music and Avalon Foundation has embraced my music for years and have given me an opportunity to come back home and play before crowds that wouldn't normally get a chance to see me because I play all over the place, all over the country, and everything like that.
Rob, what do you do?
I'm a graphic designer and an illustrator by trade. So I graduated art school on a Saturday, and I went to work as a designer on Monday. So I'm very lucky in that sense. And then from that, I've done freelance stuff or created a freelance career off of that. And I've never had a job that didn't involve art since I was 16. So I'm hopefully inspirational that it is possible to be an artist, to have it as a career as an artist. So.
Okay. So in each of your jobs, the one question that Nick, the producer in the back, wanted to know is like, first of all, what is it like where your job kind of depends on you being inspired to write a song, to come up with a graphic? Cece, you are the advertising exec for who? Can you tell everybody?
A wellness company called Persoma.
Persoma. When it comes down to, making your paycheck, and you have to be inspired to do your jobs, what is that life like?
I find the balance of art and commerce really challenging, actually, because I feel like I've honed a gut feeling over the years, and often my gut feeling is maybe a little too edgy or too far for what my company is willing to go, or where my company is willing to go, or what they think the consumer can handle. So I'm always trying to sort of push those boundaries. And I find a lot of inspiration. Well, actually, currently I'm reading a book called Hidden Persuaders, and it was sort of like, it was a book about advertising written in the 1950s, so it's very Mad Men. So I'm looking to the past a little bit for my inspiration currently in the 50s and in the 70s. I love that Calgon ad. We do bath soaks, so I'm really into the Calgon lady right now. Is where I'm looking for inspiration.
Right. I remember the oil of Olay, or
Yes. Or Ginete.
palm olive.
Yes.
They call these age spots. I call them ugly. Palm olive lady. I remember her. Anthony, what is it like to have to be inspired to write music? It's coming through your saxophone, not really words. Very different from what these two folks do.
But I write words.
Go ahead.
My top song right now is, I have this incredible singer, Mark Stagger, and the song is called Lights Down Low. And
Yeah, try to talk to me if you don't mind.
Yep,
Tell me about it.
Yep. And the song is called Lights Down Low. And it's a song that I wrote about an inspiration I got from John Coltrane when he wrote the song, the CD, Love Supreme, which was the biggest selling jazz CD of all time. And his wife knew how important it was for him, the pressure he was getting from the record company, that for 3 weeks, she told him, go upstairs, lock yourself in the room. You got the whole upstairs. For 3 weeks, she just brought him food and water, catered to him. 3 weeks later, he came out with an incredible masterpiece of a song, of a record. And what that song, Lights Down Low, did for me, it was my way of letting the world know, this man know how much, he's letting the world know how much he appreciates his wife. Because the key in my world of music is that if you're married, if you got that significant other, she has to be on board. She has to be, because if she's not on board, then it doesn't work. There's no flow. So my job funds my music. I'm self-funded. So going back to the job, without the job, there's no records, there's no studio, there's no tours, there's no anything. So any endowment money out there, I'm right here, right here.
Okay. Well, we've seen Anthony play here several times at the Avalon. He's a great saxophone player, and carries a great band with him. Rob actually designed the shirt that we're selling at the Avalon now, and Cece was used to work at the Avalon, so we're very familiar with all three of your works. Rob, what happens if, you know, I came at this. We all want to or feel inspiration, but like we don't act on it. Like we're scared that the idea is not good enough. Where does that, how do you overcome that? And you're looking at Rob's shirt back there behind him there. That's a design shirt that he did there. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what happens if you feel like you're inferior to this?
Well, you have to fight through that. I think that for me, like, it's, if you're doing your own design or if you're designing for yourself, then it's whatever boundary you put on yourself. When you're, and I agree with what Cece said, when you're working for a client, you want to try and move the client forward to not look like everybody else, especially in the corporate world. And I did design for a telecommunications firm for many years. And you would look at their competition and you go, okay, this is what they're doing. We're doing something different. And you have, it's sometimes very difficult to convince them, like, okay, it doesn't have to, everybody uses blue. We don't have to use blue. We don't have to use the same font. We're trying to, you want to try and stand out, but not to the point where you're doing like a 70s movie poster to promote a telecommunications company. Like there is a parameter where you got to stay into. If the design gets shot down and they go, I want it more corporate, then you have to sort of figure out like a path that you can weave your way through to get it to something that is going to make the company stand out, because the idea is that just they're limited to what they've seen already. You're only limited to what you can come up with out of your head. So if you want to keep pushing that forward, whether it's your own.
Can you talk about that a little bit, where the company is, they have a vision, but you're limited to what you, can you go into that a little bit?
Well, they have a vision because of what they've seen from their competition. So whether it's, if it's like using, like, say, Motorola, T-Mobile, AT&T, they know what they've done. And that's what they think is what the standard is. Mm-hmm. So as to try and make your company stand out, you go, okay, this is what they've done. You understand that. Let's try this, or let's try this, or how about we do even something as simple as, like, okay, they've done all photographs of people in groups. Let's just take one beautiful portrait of somebody that's a businessman and just make it really big, and then put the type on that, so that in a field of everybody shooting the same photo, yours is dramatically different. Still a photo, but works on a much better level, and then you can work from that. So you're not pulling them so far away from what their original vision is, but you're trying to move it in some way that the competition is now chasing you instead of you chasing the competition.
And let me jump on what Rob is saying.
Go ahead.
Because what Rob just said definitely transfers over to writing new songs. So it's one of the things that my music teacher told me a long time ago. He said, make them fall in love with your music, because that's how you know about what's going on Marvin Gaye. That's how you know about all the songs that all the great bands of the past have done. You know, they were just songs, but
People fell in love with
But
them.
the artists didn't care. It was all about what the artist believed in. And the artist believed in it so much of the music, just with Rob's paintings and the art that he does, is that the company has been this way for so long, but then Rob comes in and says, no, 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 no. This is a brand new way that's going to one day be the standard. And it's just, that was the whole impetus of writing brand new music for me, is that I didn't want to go out and play everybody else's stuff. I want people to fall in love with my music. And eventually one day it's going to be the gold standard. If it's only one song, it's going to be that one song that I'm remembered for. And if it's that one thing that Rob did that changed that company, he's going to be known. Well, where'd you get that done? This guy named Rob did it. Oh, it just changed the whole projection of where that company is going and his career.
Right.
For me, it's what makes a professional creative is that creative people across the globe can visualize, they have the vision of what it is, but a professional can then execute the vision. I think,
Very true.
right?
Very, very
and it's
true.
why you hire creative people, like businessmen or like MBAs, let's say, are great with numbers and they can, do really well in the stock market. They can make all the parts of the business go, but then the marketing team has to have these creative elements. And it's crucial that you continue to have fresh vision that moves the company forward. But really, the most crucial part is the ability to then execute that vision, and that hopefully the company trusts you to do it. But real quick,
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. So part of my background is I was trained as an actress. And the school I went to was a method acting school. And yeah, there you go. And one thing that I think people think about method acting, if you know anything about method acting, you think like Daniel Day-Lewis, or like this idea that you're like living inside your character, which
Yeah.
is true. But a big part of method acting is research and being curious, because to play a murderer, you don't have to murder someone. There are plenty of murderers out there that you can research and then take those elements and put them into your character. And something I realized when I was asked to be on this panel was that training as a method actor makes you recalibrate your brain to always be inspired, or always like looking for inspiration and sort of like filing things in the filing cabinets of your brain to like pull out later when someone's like, we need this thing for this specific job. You're like, oh, I remember that time I went to the Tate Modern and I saw this, and I'm gonna like pull that out as inspiration to then execute what I was tasked to do.
Well, that's what kind of came up. We're going to take a break here real quick in about a minute, and then come back. But when I was looking up the word and going through the, that's what I'm trying to get in this interview, and I'm not sure I'm getting it exactly. Like, it almost seemed like inspiration was a part of everyday life, and it seemed like a bigger. I mean, that person's an inspiration. That's a serious compliment. But then I started going back and I looked up the definition, and it's like the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. And it's kind of like, well, that maybe it's not that big of a word. I don't know. But when we come back, we're going to talk about what happens inside your head to say, yes, let's go ahead with this project. But how you critique yourself. How do you know when it's good? Do you have to wait for somebody else to say, hey, I really like it because we'll buy that? Or are you happy with it even if someone says, I don't really dig it? This is Coffee and Conversations. We'll be right back in about 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you for watching.
that's still life, which I've been doing a lot of. So backlighting is fun. And it's time to hit the world.
Some weekends seem to last forever when nonstop applications become nonstop discovery. And in the heart of Maryland's Eastern Shore hides an annual haven of art, instruction, and entertainment. The country's largest outdoor painting competition, Plein Air Easton. There, you can trade in the ordinary routine for an energetic festival. Exchange housework for a night or two at a bed and breakfast. And swap never enough time with we should do this more often. Take a weekend for yourself to explore, to paint, to experience something new. Your immersive art weekend begins at pleinaireaston.com.
One of America's most beautiful stretches of road weaves through the heart of Talbot County. And for 1 week every July, that road comes alive with America's best representational painters. Now in its 17th year, Plein Air Easton is the nation's largest and most prestigious outdoor painting competition and festival. Not only is there incredible art to discover in Easton, the hub of the festival, but we're also expanding our events in Oxford, St. Michael's, and Tillman Island, with exhibits all across Talbot County, each evolving with fresh paintings throughout the festival. There has never been a better time to explore the area's tidal shorelines, verdant fields, and vibrant small towns. Make plans to be inspired again through the arts, and to take home a painting of Talbot County's picturesque landscape to memorialize your immersive art adventure. It's all here at Plein Air Easton. To start your art road trip, visit pleinaireaston.com.
Welcome back to Coffee and Conversations, part of Plein Air Easton 2021. We're sitting here again with Cecily Storm, Rob Shelley, and Anthony Cannon, and they are all three artists in their own rights, and we're talking about inspiration based kind of because of so many of these artists that come in here to Plein Air Easton, they're actually trying to find light, painting outdoors in natural light, and looking for inspiration. And many times they say, no, that's not it. That's not the one. That's not the spot. And they'll go around all day and look for a spot. So that's how the topic came up. Tomorrow we're talking about marketing and branding, and the following day we're talking about art as a historical record for the landscape. So again, thank you all for coming. I wanted to let's just go right into this. Let's start here. Whereas positive effect moving forward is created when someone is making progress toward their immediate conscious goals, inspiration is related to an awakening to something new, better, or more important. It's a transcendence of one's previous concerns. I'm talking serious inspiration here. I'll read that again. Whereas positive effect moving forward is activated when someone is making progress towards their immediate conscious goals, inspiration is more related to an awakening to something new, better, or more important. A transcendence, a moving beyond of one's previous concerns. Now, Cece, I'll ask you, does that mean inspiration is everywhere?
Yes,
Got you.
Yes.
Okay.
we can just be done if you want. 'Cause
Right.
yes.
Right.
So I think that is crazy. That definition is like, wait, it's like so
This is a-
heady. Oh
this
my
is a-
God.
It's a study. It's
Yeah.
a study done.
Yeah. Holy shnikes.
So it's beyond.
It is. So I would say two things. There's inspiration as reference, which is kind of like what I
Bring
was
it out of
talking
your soul.
about.
Bring it out of your gut.
Well, whew, so there's inspiration as reference, where you're pulling from your own life experiences and applying that to art, whatever art form you're dabbling in. And then there's like what this is talking about, which I think is when you almost discover something new, which is very hard to do considering like everything has been done and you're always sort of, I don't know, do you guys find that?
Well, I mean, it's true,
Mm-hmm.
but the shirt that you made for the Avalon, which she could bring up. There's some scientists up there studying something. One of them.
No, that's Punch Drunk Theater.
That's Punch Drunk. I
Yeah.
actually went to that show.
Yeah.
That was a very sort of inspired show.
Well, and I would say they did something new. That's a great example of something that was new.
There's Rob's shirt. It didn't exist before you made that shirt.
But Art Deco did.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the So the inspiration was when we talked, the theater was built during the Art Deco period. So the basis had to be, it's got to be Art Deco. It would not have made sense to do a modern design. It just wouldn't fit the theme of the theater, even down to the typography. You don't want to do stuff that takes it out of what the element is, because then you're creating something, you're just sort of blowing up. It's
what
already
this-
really good.
That's what this study says.
Well, they're wrong. I mean, the inspiration, so as all of us do different things, as an illustrator and designer, like, if I have to do something, I might look at 2 or 3 different black and white photographs for some sort of composition element, and then I might look at some Art Deco building, like Chrysler Building is the most famous Art Deco building. Might look at that just for the shape of what it is, and then I might, like John, he talked about John Coltrane's Love Supreme. It's the cover of that record is a black and white shot of John Coltrane with a type over it. So somewhere in that mix, I'm going to take all that and create something. So it might end up being a black and white composed image of a photograph with Art Deco elements in it. So that the inspiration is how much of an encyclopedic memory you can absorb from all different types of art, whether it's music, photography, design, painting. That is what moves you forward. And in the end, the finish line always keeps moving. So none of us, no matter how successful we are never gonna get better than our inspiration. You just hope that you're in the conversation, because if you cross that finish line, then there's no reason to continue. And it should never, nobody should ever finish a piece and go, yep, I got it. That's it. I am great. Nobody I've ever met does that. And if they do, they're not a really great creative person, because the finish line always moves and you just chase it as fast as you can.
Oh, it sounds-
That's inspiration.
It's like pushing the rock up the hill.
Absolutely. And the hill just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You never get to the apex.
Anthony, is bringing a song that never existed, is that the way you feel about it? It's sort of like been done, you're copying?
No, never at all. I played with a lot of bands early on in my career, and just got to the point where if I play this song one more time, I'm going to just explode. And the inspiration came from, I need people to hear what I have to say. It's that simple. I just need them to hear what I have to say, because, and like you said, you're never a master, because even the greatest musicians, Yanni, Beethoven, once they got to a certain point, another door opened.
Absolutely.
And there went there, John Coltrane in particular. Once you got to the point where you're great at avant-garde jazz, you're great at the modes, you're great at playing all the scales and just boom, 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 then all of a sudden, wow, he went to India. He incorporated Indian music into his jazz philosophy. So with me, I'm an instrumentalist, but the door opened that I'm a great lyricist. I write great words, lights down low, music moving to the flow. I'm here to let you know. To his wife, baby, I'm living the dream. With you, can't you see? That's a man telling his wife that without you, I'm nothing. And I lay that on top of my melodies on the sax, and boom, I'm doing something that most saxophonists don't have the ability to do, is write the right words that fit the melody of the song.
Right. I mean, I know. I don't want to get into talent. I mean, I know because there's a
It's not talent. It's not talent.
Talent is a very
not
poorly
talent.
choiced word.
Yeah, it's not
Okay,
talent.
go ahead.
Because all of us worked really hard.
It comes from here, and it comes from me being a little boy growing up in St. Michael's, walking through that town when all those little shops that are there now, all my friends used to live in those homes.
Right.
The bike shop, the pharmacy, the 5 and dime store. All that comes out when I'm sitting in my studio thinking and listening to a melody, creating the melody on the piano, and then I get a little sad because that was a wonderful moment in time, on Eastern Shore.
Sure.
It was a wonderful moment in time that a lot of folks that come to visit St. Michael's now, they have no clue.
Right. That's memory. Talent is a poor choice of word. What are you talking about?
Because everybody looks at, anytime you do something, people go, oh, you're so talented. And you go, if you knew how hard I worked to get to this point, you would not be that impressed. Because anybody who's any good, like, it doesn't just, you have an aptitude to it, but to get to where you want to be, and like I said, to find that finish line, it is hours and hours and hours of work and staying up all night and practice and looking at other stuff and looking at your own stuff and going, this is awful. Even though it might be better than what your contemporaries are, but whatever's in your head is going, I am not there yet. That is not, talent doesn't exist. It is an incredible amount of hard work that nobody sees. You just get to see the end piece. You just don't know the struggle that got you there.
Yeah, and Rob's right. I'm never satisfied with the song. Without the producer, I still be working on my first song.
Yeah.
But why do you put it out?
Because you always feel that you can do better. But that's why you have that producer there that says, boom, this is it, we got it.
Or in the end, when you finish it, you have to be satisfied with what you do. And once you finish it, like the Avalon design or a piece, I am comfortable enough to show this to people. What you do with it now, it's not mine anymore. Once you hang it on the wall or turn it into the client, it's theirs. So it becomes, hopefully they enjoy it and embrace it and it becomes part of theirs. But once I'm done and it's signed off, it's not mine anymore. So I do pieces for myself, but in the end, it's all the work to get it to there, and then the hope is that it goes out and gives something to the rest of everybody else.
Let me ask you too. With me, with the music, I never liked the song until like 3 or 4 months later after I released it. Are you guys with the photos and
I do tend to have a similar thing where I'll like, while I'm editing photos, I'll be like, oh my God, it's terrible. And then I look back on it and I was like, oh my God, actually that was amazing. Yay me. But I think it's sort of both. I think people are born naturally creative. It's like a right brain, left brain thing. Like you are hardwired to have imagination or like an excessive amount of creativity, whereas like a normal person may not. And then it's throughout your life. I think it's exactly what you said. It's the hard work, but also the inability to suppress the creativity.
Yes,
I think a lot of people,
absolutely.
like society teaches us to like work a 9 to 5. Like there's a lot of societal things that are happening. And if you can fight against that and have faith in your creativity and get into a professional place where you can express your creativity for money, then you've really succeeded. But it takes so much hard work to get there.
And also as somebody, people who are creative, and I'm sure my colleagues will say the same thing, is the person who works a 9 to 5 job, there's a luxury to that we don't have. So they get up, take a shower, go to work, turn the lights on, do their 9 to 5, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, and they can shut off. Our brains don't shut off. So at like even coming home from doing whatever we do, the wheel is still spinning. So either on a piece you did, a piece you're working on, or one you shanked, and you just go, why couldn't I get that good? So to lay down at night and you're laying in bed and the wheel just spins and spins and spins, That's the difference between creativity and people who are not creative.
You know what I struggle with is the person that works that 9 to 5 job, their success is measurable in a way that mine is not, because the work that I do is so subjective. I think like music is subjective. There are
Sure.
people in this world that don't like jazz, and that's, well, sad for
Sad.
them. Very sad for
Very
them,
sad.
first of all. But second of all, like, you cannot, how do you measure success when some people just won't like what you do? That's something that I struggle with a lot, that I think to be a real artist, you have to output work. You have to put work out there to be judged, or at least art. I don't want to get into a conversation of like what art is, but you put things out there to be judged, or at least to evoke some kind of like beautiful visceral response from the viewer or the listener or the, the patron. But you run the risk of it being hated because it's subjective, which is really tough. Whereas like if you're an accountant, the books are not subjective. They are what they are. So there's like a comfort in that. Whereas we live a life that is a little bit on the edge all the time of having to deal with negative criticism that's maybe hurtful or unfounded because you're, oh, that's Bucaro, who's one of my
Go
big
ahead, talk about
inspirations.
that. Go ahead and talk about that. Cece.
So I find a lot of my inspiration in fine art, in particular the way artists use lighting and like skin tone coloring. And Bucaro is one of my favorites for the way he poses his subjects, and then the light on the skin is just so beautiful to me.
And the simplicity of the composition.
Yeah,
Like, most
it's really
of them are single
gorgeous.
figures, and just the creaminess that he gets, and it's just
Gorgeous.
Anthony, you see anything there?
Just the innocence of her face. Yeah.
But that could be an inspiration.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
we're bringing it all together. I'm telling you, it's going to come back together. We're bringing it all back around.
But I mean, the other thing, like what she was talking about is, yeah, we put it out there, and like some people shoot everything down, but when you have to do it, and knowing that at some point you're going to move somebody. So if he's on stage playing, and there's somebody that their day just goes away, and for an hour or whatever, that they just fall into it, and they don't think about anything else, and his work moves them. If she shoots a photograph, and it's a portrait, much like the Bouguereau piece, and you just look at it and you just fall into it, and you just go like the like you see the eyes of the little girl, and it's just something incredibly innocent. Or I do a piece and it just moves somebody. That's why we do it, because because you're not going to get them all that way, but once you get to a point and you invoke that feeling from somebody who doesn't do what we do, or even for our contemporaries that do, like there's no greater honor than when you have a friend or somebody you respect and go, that's it, you got it, that was great, and you go, I'm doing something.
But you're still going to push the rock up the hill
Always,
next
yeah.
time.
That's if nothing else, that's the inspiring part to do it. But for the people that aren't creative, it's our job to make them feel something. Hopefully joy, but also you can do a piece that, like, whether it's heavy blacks and stuff like that, it makes them uncomfortable. Any response that you get out, if it's good or bad, that's what it's supposed to do. Art's supposed to move you in some capacity. So like, there's Coltrane pieces that are just caustic to listen to, and like really, really tough. But once you get into it, you can understand where he was going. It's not the sort of beautifulness of some things. And art doesn't have to all be beautiful. There's some joy in the chaos, and same thing with like harsh lighting and subject matter that's not sometimes pleasurable to look at. But once you kind of understand where you're going, it's important to have that too.
What's this picture we're looking at here? Whose picture is this?
That is Dracula. That's the first piece I did for a show
Bela Lugosi.
of all movie monsters, and I wanted to sort of reinterpret them from different standpoints. So it's a really great shot of Bela Lugosi that I did, and it's silver colored pencil on black paper. So instead of working in the positive where you draw the black, I had to basically draw it in negative. So you're drawing all the lights instead of the darks.
Right.
So and then that's how you command it.
Great. I do want to ask if anyone out in the audience has a question. I have some other things to go on through. Do you guys have anything in this at all yet? You don't have to. Anything? Okay. If you do, like I said, ideally it'd be a little bit back and forth. But so Nick, I think we kind of covered the what happens when the difference between someone who's depending on their creativity for a livelihood versus say an accountant. We always use an accountant. We're picking on accountants, but
I mean,
it's anybody.
they're very important.
Yeah, they are very, very important.
Especially in April.
So when you're doing this, Anthony, and you're going, and April's really important, you're trying to get it going, and maybe you're just being creative. It's not really an inspirational moment for you. What happens when they don't come? You have writer's block. You have the block. Have you had a bad case of that?
Oh yeah. There's melody. You know, you hear this melody in your head and trying to piece it all together. I'll get in the car and go drive. I'll walk around my neighborhood. I'll pick the horn up and just play through scales. All the stuff that, as musicians, and I'm pretty sure my colleagues have technical things that they have to do to keep themselves on the razor's edge to stay sharp. So I'll just play through all that, and sometimes just go to bed. Just leave it alone, man. Sometimes you just have to walk away from it and just come back to it later on. Sometimes you do. With me, I just have to walk away from it and boom, because you can't force it.
Right.
Because then you're just creating noise.
But you're frustrated?
No,
No.
it's part of the process.
You know it's coming.
Right.
Like you hit a brick wall, or like I used to, the corporate gig that I had to say I'd be doing something for a trade show, and you just hit a block where you've done the same thing 3 times, or like this isn't working, this picture's terrible, I can't get this. I would just get up and go record shopping. Like my boss was cool enough. I was like, look, give me 2 hours, I'll be back. Go do something to clear my head. And talking about inspiration, like flipping through record covers and go, oh, maybe I'll try yellow when I get back. And then it changes the whole tone of the piece. So getting away from it is just as important as trying to drive your way through it. Ultimately, if you have a deadline, you're gonna produce something, but not everything has to be a portfolio piece. It can't be garbage, but you can't look at it as it's the greatest, like every piece is not gonna be great. It just has to solve the problem. But to walk away from it or to go to bed, as hard as that is like your brain wants to force you through it. And sometimes you just have to clear your head. And then when you come with fresh eyes and you go, all right, now what would have taken you 3 hours the night before, you sit down and in 20 minutes it all falls together. So.
Rob, before we get to CC, can you mention a couple of people you've made posters for?
Elvis Costello, Hold Steady, the Avalon Theater.
There's the Elvis Costello one
Generation. I've tried to do, most of the posters I've done are for musicians, but then other corporate events and stuff like that have had me do different things. So.
Right. Tony, who have you played with? Who have you been on
Adam Hawley,
right.
Anita Baker.
Right.
I played with her. Jazz guys like Marion Meadows, Boney James. If you're not in the jazz world, you probably don't know who they are.
No. I just want to give people a sense, because there's plenty of people who are listening who aren't in the jazz world would know exactly what you're talking about. CC, how do you handle writer's block?
I actually do get really frustrated because when it tends to happen to me is when I'm in the middle of shooting. And the way it tends to happen is like I will have produced and planned a whole shoot. We get there, everything should be working, but it's not. And I have to troubleshoot in the moment
like me.
to figure out how to be inspired, or I do just have to like keep shooting. And I've learned some techniques over the years where like I'll change the music that's playing. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes I'll just stop and like try to, change my attitude a little bit the best I can, talk myself out of it maybe. Or this kind of, or like an edible helps sometimes, take yourself to like a psychedelic place. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, it's legal. But like changing your point of view basically is like an external thing, is like helping you change what's happening in the room, I guess. But yeah, it's really difficult. That's when all your inspiration and all your reference may not be able to help you in that moment. And it can be a real struggle. But then what I do find is in those things that, like when I look at it, when I look back on it, it wasn't as bad as I thought. It just felt really desperate in the moment that like, this isn't working. These pictures are gonna be terrible. And then I look back and I was like, oh, actually, because we have a technical ability that you can lean back on. So there will always be sort of a standard that you're hitting. And it may not, I maybe wasn't reaching my personal standard of creativity, but I was reaching like a technical standard that is completely acceptable to the rest of the world. So it was fine. I just didn't hit the goal that I personally was going for.
I think we've solved writer's block here. I really do.
Nailed it, totally.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break here. Nick, we're getting ready to go for a break. Anthony, I want before I do it, what video are we watching here?
That's my new song called City Nights.
City Nights, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Looks really well done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So this is Coffee and Conversations. We're gonna be right back, and we're gonna finish up this interview talking about some sort of abstract questions, starting off with what was your best failure you ever had and what you learned from your best failure. We'll be right back. This is Coffee and Conversations, Plein Air Easton 2021.
I'm gonna leave it. Yeah. Should I go?
some weekends seem to last forever when nonstop applications become nonstop discovery. And in the heart of Maryland's Eastern Shore hides an annual haven of art, instruction, and entertainment. The country's largest outdoor painting competition, Plein Air Easton. There, you can trade in the ordinary routine for an energetic festival. Exchange housework for a night or two at a bed and breakfast. And swap never enough time with we should do this more often. Take a weekend for yourself to explore, to paint, to experience something new. Your immersive art weekend begins at pleinaireaston.com.
One of America's most beautiful stretches of road weaves through the heart of Talbot County. And for 1 week every July, that road comes alive with America's best representational painters. Now in its 17th year, Plein Air Easton is the nation's largest and most prestigious outdoor painting competition and festival. Not only is there incredible art to discover in Easton, the hub of the festival, but we're also expanding our events in Oxford, St. Michael's, and Tillman Island, with exhibits all across Talbot County, each evolving with fresh paintings throughout the festival. There has never been a better time to explore the area's tidal shorelines, verdant fields, and vibrant small towns. Make plans to be inspired again through the arts and to take home a painting of Talbot County's picturesque landscape to memorialize your immersive art adventure. It's all here at Plein Air Easton. To start your art road trip, visit pleinaireaston.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Conversations. This is our last segment for today, Monday. We're here talking about inspiration. We've kind of hit it, I think. I'm not. I think my questions were very good. To be honest with you, I didn't. It was a tough subject to.
Well, can I make a differentiator? I think we need to differentiate, like, being inspired when you've been given a directive by a client, and then inspiration for yourself, like, as an artist. Because, like, I think when you work for a client, you have to rely on reference so that the client can visualize and understand what you're going to execute for them. And inspiration for yourself can really come from anywhere and doesn't necessarily need reference. Like, once I was inspired to take a picture because I saw my daughter eating a peach, and I was like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. Like, that's incredible. Like, she's just eating a peach, and I was like, oh, where's the camera? Like, and I took her outside, and I set up this whole, like, elaborate thing because of one gesture, like, inspired me to take, like, an incredible picture of her. And that was just for me, you know?
Right.
So I think there's a difference.
It's good. It's good. Did it come out? Did the picture come out?
It did. It's beautiful. And
Okay.
I love her. She's so cute.
So what happens? What's the best thing that's ever come out of one of your failures that you've never failed?
Oh,
Oh,
definitely.
no, slow down.
So I think I've had a lot of professional failures because I've worked in the wedding industry for like over a decade. And you're just like setting yourself up for failure, shooting weddings. But the one that like I always carry with me is from college. We did a semester on improvisation, and the final project was we had to do a 45-minute improvised musical, which was absolutely one of the hardest things I've ever done. And we were split into two groups, and the group that went first killed it. They created one of the most amazing musicals I've ever seen out of nothing, and we had to follow that, and we absolutely failed. And that feeling of being like not literally naked, but naked on stage in front of 300 people failing is something that it lives inside my body. Like, I cannot ever not feel that feeling of failure.
Right, very intense.
But we kept going, and I think that's what I've like taken from it is that even in the depths of winter, you know, there's still an invincible summer.
Tell us about this photo here, Cece. Is it yours?
No, that's not one of mine. That's a piece of performance art.
What's inspiring about that?
Well, I find performance art inspiring in a lot of ways, not just like the imagery of it, but being present for performance art is so incredible because it transcends. It's like it's not theater, it's not a painting, it's an amalgamation. And I think this is one of Marina Abramovich's, I think,
Okay,
one of her
gotcha.
things. And there's something about being in the room with a performance that is so powerful and so inspiring because you're feeling it in your entire body. You're not just looking at it with your eyes. This is a company called Forza Bruta, and they do performance art, and it's so visceral. One of my favorite pieces of theirs, everyone is standing in a room, and they lowered an Olympic-sized swimming pool with a glass bottom to about 2 feet above the audience's heads. And these girls are swimming, and you can touch them, and they interact with you. And just being underneath an Olympic-sized swimming pool is such an incredible experience. And you can't, it's unreal. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know where they come up with inspiration
awesome.
for that, but it inspires everyone who witnesses it.
Sure, it's great. That's wonderful. Anthony, the biggest failure you've ever learned from?
Why you gonna take me back there?
It was so
Okay,
painful.
this is a funny story. So I start back playing saxophone about 22 years ago, studying, took a couple courses at Howard Community College, studying with this really, really good sax teacher, practicing. I'm feeling like I'm ready to go out and play. He said, you ain't ready. I said, I'm ready. Against his wishes, went to an open mic up in Baltimore and got on stage. Couldn't find one note. It was the most horrendous, embarrassing. Remember the Flintstones episode where Fred was so humiliated that he shrunk down to nothing?
Yeah, I do remember that.
That was me.
Amazing.
That was me.
That's really good.
And the lesson out of that was I drove home completely upset, and I spoke to the saxophone, and I said, you will never, ever embarrass me again. And at that point in time, I listened to my teacher and just practice.
Right,
So
right.
that was a horrible experience that made me the player that I am today.
Right,
awesome.
very nice,
Yeah.
very nice. Rob?
I mean, you try to force your way through it, but I guess early on, I started as an airbrush artist and painting portraits, and what I know about structure now and how to fix a portrait is dramatically different than when I started. And I remember I had to paint a baby, and babies pretty much all look the same. Like, yours is obviously great and is the best ever, but for the most part, artistically, they're all identical. This particular kid was a little on the not the pretty side.
Oh my
And I painted it exactly like the photo, that was my mistake. I should have just fixed the problems. And I presented it to them, and they were like, and then I couldn't tell them the kid was ugly. I just had to say, well, let me do it again. And then I fixed everything, and they were very thrilled with it. So I learned that the photograph doesn't lie, but as an artist, your job is to make the photograph better. So, because they're two very different types of media. So what you see in a photograph, you can paint exactly, doesn't work. So there's a reason why both exist. And so shanking that one was a very humbling experience.
Right.
So.
Nick, can you go back to that, I think it was Jackie Robinson picture? Was that
No,
Jackie?
Roberto Clemente.
Oh, Roberto Clemente, Pirates, yes. Is that
I did that, yeah. So, I mean, he's not only one of the greatest baseball players, but an incredible, talking about inspiration, he tragically went to Nicaragua, where he's from, to help earthquake victims after the season, and died in a plane crash flying back. So he is famous he has exactly 3,000 hits, one of the 2 to 3 greatest baseball outfielders ever. But his altruism to go back to his home country and help people, in addition to being an incredible baseball player, puts him on the Mount Rushmore of players. And,
Sure.
And I've always wanted to do the piece, and we talk about like what we did in the pandemic. That's what I did in the pandemic. So I always wanted to do it, and that was a fun piece to do.
Go ahead.
He would have been the Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If he was playing in today's game, you would equate him even more to Mickey Mantle, I think.
Yeah.
He would have been. He was the Michael Jordan of baseball.
Yeah. Mickey might have been a better hitter, but Roberto was an all-around better fielder and certainly a better base runner. And tragically, his career got cut short by many. Well, his life got cut short, but he would have been one of the. He's definitely one of the greatest ever, but he would have been put in that like top 25 for sure.
Sure.
So
Sure. We're going to ask two more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. The next question is, what is an unusual habit or sort of absurd thing that you actually love?
in terms of art, or
Just yeah, in terms of, yeah. I mean, it could be,
I love reality TV. I find so much inspiration, and my husband really makes fun of me for this, but I feel like reality TV is like one of the best expressions of the human experience. It's like, it really, like people, obviously it's like very produced and people are not themselves in front of cameras, but are they? I think they really are.
Right.
And more specifically, over the last, my God, like 8 to 10 years, I have found so much inspiration in specifically RuPaul's Drag Race. And I think it's because I didn't realize until I started watching Drag Race how much queer culture and Black culture have influenced all culture. I didn't know where like so many references that I loved came from, and that show helped me put pieces together and like opened a world to me that I didn't know existed. And it's also just like irreverent and silly and incredible and so much fun.
Right.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Anthony, something unusual or absurd that you love, inspirational could be?
I think most of my friends and people that I speak to when they guacamole, they're like, and I'm like, no, I've never had guacamole.
You've never had
You're missing out. It's so good.
I'm the type of guy, I'm very finicky when it comes to food. If it doesn't meet the eye test, it's done. I'm not trying it.
I feel like
my
you
mom,
need a-
and my mom was an incredible cook, and she used to make her own guacamole, and people were like, well, I was like, no, I've never had it. I mean, what do you mean you never had it? It's all right. Never had it. So, call me weird.
I love it.
Rob,
I don't know anything that's crazy. I mean, I would say like
absurd.
I mean, knowing that it's unhealthy, but there is something when you bite into a Big Mac that takes you back to childhood and you go, this is what it's supposed to taste like. And then when you finish it, you hate yourself. So like, I know this is the worst thing possible that I could do, but there's obviously a drug in it that makes you forget after you've eaten it that the next day you go, I gotta have another one. So I mean, I try and
So
limit.
that's absurd behavior.
I try and limit the amount of fast food that I eat, but for some reason it all still tastes exactly as it should. So
So good.
Have you been motivated in the audience, been motivated by it with this conversation? Do you have any questions before we get ready to wrap this up? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm a quilter, so I need to get out of my house to be inspired. And some people are inspired by just sitting in the room, but I'm not. I have to see moving art. I'm not an artist. I don't know any of the artists in here, but I love to learn. As a quilter, we were asked to cut these banners out because we cut a lot.
Uh-huh.
When I got here, they gave us a chalk line
Right?
to be straight, and I was with 3 other quilters, and we've never used a chalk line. We did a chalk line away and used our rulers.
Right.
But, I'm inspired. I was watching this at home, and I'm like, I need to come here and get inspired.
Well, good.
Out of my head, and
Well, a couple things. First of all, just so everybody knows that we've been listening to a comment from one of the people who's in the audience, and she's a quilter, and she came in to watch and just to let this inspire her, which actually makes the whole thing kind of worthwhile, to do that. So thank you very much for coming in. And she just made those comments. I'm curious, and maybe you guys can answer this. And you're a quilter. What do you make? Does you design quilts?
I can.
But you don't consider yourself an artist, which I'm just kind of curious about, because that is a big moment.
I'm
When,
sorry, I meant painting.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
'cause you're
But,
definitely an
I was
artist.
gonna say, yeah, all of us are gonna
gotcha.
say
Okay.
you're an
Okay.
artist.
Gotcha.
I will go, but what she said about she has to get out to like, I don't think any of us can create in a vacuum. Like you work and then like, you go see a band play, you'll go see another musician play, you'll go look at other photography, you'll go look at other paintings. But then you go, and taking all that in, then you go back to your studio, and then that sort of flows back out. And at some point, like, thinking of it as a well, like, okay, once you've taken all that in, you finish the piece, and you go, I just got to refresh the well. You might get 2 or 3 after that, but at some point you have to go out and get something in you.
Right.
Even if it's the same, even if it's to go back to the Met in New York or to the National Gallery in DC and look at the same painting, just to look at it and go, oh, this is what it is. And then that just refreshes you as far as the creative output goes, because you can't, nobody I know is a studio rat that can sit there and not look at anything else. It's just not, because at some point you're going to just hit a roadblock. You have to get, whether it's listening to another record, going out and looking at some other stuff, or just talking to other artists. Like, something that she's going to do or that he's going to do, might take me in a direction that I wasn't thinking of just from the conversation, not even seeing the work. Right. So to surround yourself with creative people, even in other fields, actually helps sort of like ping pong you a different direction that you wouldn't have done before.
I know. Go ahead, Cece.
Well, I didn't realize how much I needed to like get out in the world until last year, where it was at times I was like in a very deep creative depression of like no inspiration. Like, I absolutely love my children and I take thousands and thousands of pictures of them, but like, come on. I mean, like, oh. And I was like so desperately trying to find the spark, the thing that makes me happy. Like, my creativity makes me happy. And I didn't realize how much I rely on external sources. And like, you can't just look at something on the internet, or, I mean, I even tapped out, I felt like I tapped out my well of musical inspiration, of television, of movies. Like, there is really something to be said for like being out in the world and like experiencing things with other people too is like really important.
Thank you for coming in. Thanks for bringing that up. The last question is, and I borrowed this one, I'm not going to deny it. What culture did you find yourself in? I'll wait for Cece, you can answer this last. You can take this one, Rob. What culture did you find yourself in when you said to yourself, culture is for me?
Oh, the first time I heard punk rock, easily, without a doubt, because the lyrics, the art and everything about it was like, this is what I want to do. So whether it was creating album covers or the music or the people that, and it's all a very DIY culture. So everybody relies on everybody. Like, a photographer, you can make posters, you can do this. Hey, you got a practice space. And to be able to become part of that and move it forward, to do stuff for the bands that I've done and to just keep it going. I think to me, in music, there was nothing more inspiring. And then it also doubles into art and photography and culture. And finding that at an early age has stayed with me forever, and it will never, ever leave me. And I'm truly, truly grateful for all the musicians and artists that fall under that umbrella that I chase and am inspired by.
Excellent. Anthony, what culture were you in, or did you find yourself in when you said to yourself, culture is the way that I want to go with my life?
It was all the music, from country to.
I get the sense that like you're always thinking in music terms.
Yeah.
Like your brain is going
Pop,
with music.
It didn't matter, Well, I guess the heavy metal, I couldn't wrap my mind around that.
It's not for everybody, but
Give it time.
it's got its place.
Yeah, give it time. It's okay.
But music in general, and mostly because, and I got to give this to my uncle Walter's father, who drove a crab truck, and everybody always wanted to go with him. He'd drive up to New York, come back, and back then, during that time, you just got the radio. So I'm listening to all these different radio stations in the truck with him all the time. So I got it, exposed to all the different, not just R&B of the 70s and 80s, but Elton John, Foreigner, and,
all stuff with melody.
Yeah, man.
All stuff with
See,
melody.
all my music is all melody driven. So those Ambrosia,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all
I
that
really
music.
believe if someone were to redo the two Ambrosia hits,
Yeah.
like the one group redid the Toto song
Uh-huh.
Africa, I think whoever did that would make $1 zillion.
Yeah.
I really, Ambrosia's pretty impressive. That's great,
Yeah, yeah.
Anthony. That's great.
Yeah.
Cece, what culture did you find yourself in when you said culture is for me?
I think there's a lot of things because, well, I'll be specific, but I feel like I grew up in a household with like an excessive amount of creativity, like coming at me from all angles. So it's like really been a part of my life since day one. But I have a very clear, vivid memory of the first time I ever saw Vanity Fair magazine. And I don't think I read any of the articles because I was like really little. And it was probably like boring. But like the imagery, even the ads to the, the photography spreads, the illustration, everything like really spoke to me. And it sparked something that, that was from, well, fashion. I love me some fashion. That's a Louis Vuitton show. That I find very inspiring. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I really want to thank you guys for coming out on a Monday. Rob drove from Richmond.
Oh,
Anthony,
wow.
you got to go back to Philadelpia?
No,
right?
I'm headed to Washington, D.C.
Heading to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Cece's got to go back and work at the ice cream shop.
Just gonna walk there.
That's a little bit easier, but still an ice cream shop. I really want to thank you guys for coming
It's our
by.
pleasure.
We will be doing another one of these coffee and conversations tomorrow. Again, it's marketing and branding. It's Tim Curitin, who is Rise Up Coffee. It is Bill Nielsen, who worked for Johnson & Johnson and handled the marketing for Johnson & Johnson. He actually handled when Tylenol had the scare, he handled that back in the 70s. Which is,
Oh, wow.
And also Crystal Mall, who has a art gallery in Baltimore, Maryland. That's tomorrow at 11 o'clock as well. And I think, guys, inspiration, it's in you, it's part of you, it's that voice in your head, and, just go with it and let it sort
Just
of,
be an open channel. So whether it's reading, bad TV, music, art, gallery, whatever it is, but just absorb it. And even if it just gives you joy, hopefully it will inspire you to do. It'll get you to do something. But don't shut it all off. Try and sort of be that channel that lets it come in, and whatever you push it out, that's your inspiration.
Yeah, I think if you're always curious, you'll always be inspired.
Yeah.
Go with whatever's in your heart. That's the flow.
thank you all very much. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for watching. Thank you.